All right, we are live for the Tuesday edition of the morning check-in. And as always, running behind, scrambling last minute, putting things together, trying to just share with you some things that caught my attention this early morning. And as always, hope everyone's day is off to a great start. Happy Tuesday to everybody, as some will consider Taco Tuesday. Let me know in the chat who will actually be consuming tacos today. Think that's kind of funny to have that little mantra out there. But anyway, hope everyone's doing well. As always, man, looking forward to sharing some things that caught my attention this early morning with you. Of course, starting off with some good news, which clearly the world needs, and in particular, Generation Z, the Zoomers, as they're referred to. I've seen several videos showing signs of just complete despair and desperation amongst the younger generation today due to the monetary malfeasance of the older generation and the powers that are at work against humanity when it comes to our money and things like that. And literally, the younger generation is getting a short end of the deal. So we're going to talk about that. I'm curious to get your thoughts on that. And have an interesting little video here that I came across literally 20 minutes ago that I wanted to lead off with today, just to show just a little bit of what is happening amongst the younger generation beyond what we already know and things like that. And so, and also metals activity, interesting developments, some interesting perspectives out there amongst some of the analysts or whatnot that I want to bring to your attention. And of course, we're at all-time high at equities market. And as always, every president wants to own it when it's at an all-time high, but nobody wants to own it when it's at an all-time low. So we're going to share some thoughts about that and have a little have a little fun this morning, man. As always, want to make sure everything is flowing smoothly on my end. Let me know if you guys can hear me, if the video is looking crisp and clear. That's always a good thing, as long as there's no interruptions. And if we have any first-time viewers, any returning viewers, as always, let me know where you're watching from. We'll love to give you a quick shout out. And as always, if you have not as of yet, don't be afraid to hit that thumbs up button. Show some love for the channel, whether on YouTube or on Rumble. Click the bell as well as the check mark on Rumble, so you'll be notified, hopefully, when we go live, so you can join us and let your thoughts be known in the chat. And if you have not as well, connect with us on socials, in particular the Telegram page, where I share stuff throughout the day as far as articles and news stories and things of that nature. And if you have some favorite content creators, you want to share their content, feel free to do it. That's where we can stay plugged in and share perspectives throughout the day. So definitely a great place to connect throughout the day if you guys are interested, man. All right. We have Joe checking in. We have Angelo. We got Vu. We got Rob. 18K is still an uptrend on the Dow. 18K is still an uptrend on the Dow. 18K on the Dow. You mean a downtrend towards 18K? Because as of right now, we're at 40,000 and climbing. And so, let's get into it, man. As always, want to start off with some good news. Get to some, probably today, start off with some issues impacting Main Street, and in particular, the Zoomer generation. And then we'll get into some other things as well. So no particular order, just put some things together that I wanted to share my 2 cents on. And of course, curious to hear your guys' thoughts on some things. So feel free to have at it, man. But this is the world we're living in nowadays, man. And let's make the most of our time together. Let's get into it with the good news. Here we go. May 21st, the purpose of brokenness, from the Daily Devotional. And it says here, let me get my right screen up here so I can read it from a screen that I can actually see better. Okay, the purpose of brokenness. When he has tried me, I shall come forth as gold. That's from Job 23:10. And we all know about Job struggles. It's good to say nobody here tuning in has experienced the level of suffering that individual did during his lifetime. But then again, remaining faithful allowed him to recoup and recover everything lost plus some. And so that's going to be a good little message in of itself. But anyway, it says, if you keep experiencing the same type of trial repeatedly, it means the Lord is instructing you. You most likely you have a pattern of thought or behavior that is contrary to who you are as his child, and he must bring it to the surface to heal you of it. In order to set you free, he targets areas of self-will, destructive attitudes, and anything in your life that does not honor him. So take heart. This is a painful This is painful for the moment, but the Father is liberating you from your self-sufficiency so that he can demonstrate his sovereign power and wisdom through you. Unfortunately, it's only through brokenness that you'll truly stop depending on your limited resources and start relying wholeheartedly upon him. So, what is it in your life that the Lord keeps addressing? What is keeping you from trusting him fully? Friend, he is God, wise, loving, and always working for your ultimate benefit. So surrender control of every area of your life to him and allow him to determine what can remain in your life and what must go. And the closing prayer is, Father, I don't want to keep going through these trials. Please teach me and help me rely upon you wholeheartedly. Amen. All right, good people. The purpose of brokenness, trusting in him. Ultimately, everything should point back towards our source, our Savior, because he is the reason and the answer for everything we need in life. And if you believe that, there's hope. If you don't, you need to get on board, because that's where the world is ultimately going to be heading towards. And we're in desperate need of hope. And in particular, so this message is, I think, is very very timely, given the fact that I'm talking about the Zoomers today, and just some of the despair and the desperation that the younger generation are feeling because they bought into the lies based upon just the trend, being told information that's outdated, not relevant to the times. And then you factor in the issues with our current monetary structure, which, as I mentioned before, they're getting the short end of this deal. And so I want to share with you a video real quick, and then we can talk about that a little bit. And I'll share some other things that is kind of, the results from that. So yeah, let's get into it. But as always, want to make sure I give everybody an opportunity, if they have not, to plug in with some resources from the channel here. And let me get my screens together here. We're going to jump right into it. I'm trying to be more precise and straight to the point today, and less back and forth chit chatter. Get to the primary subjects of the day. Okay, so for those who may be new, you never know. But as always, dollar IQ quiz, as you can see above my head here, 10 simple questions make a world of difference, and it'll help expose that knowledge gap that we all have in reference to what we were not taught and told in school. And this plays into the whole desperation sense that the Zoomers are experiencing. Literally bought into the Kool-Aid, drunk the Kool-Aid, believe the lies, and unfortunately, they're going to pay the price significantly. So, but anyway, when it comes to money, understanding the difference between sound money and fiat currency is imperative at this current day and age. And so this is a quick quiz to see how well you understand the dollar. And so take it and let me know your thoughts on it. rethinkingdollar.com/quiz. And of course, I have 3 monetary steps to savviness and beneath this video here. So check those out as well. And this is the education that we were not taught in school, it's just coming full circle right now. And I'm going to get into that more in a minute, but you'll get my drift. And then also, for those who have not, I want to encourage you to connect with colonialsmetalsgroup.com /RTD. Gives you a chance to speak with the experts on taking possession of your portfolio via a self-directed IRA. So as you can see above my head here, here's a quick little fill-in survey there, and you'll be contacted by one of their team members there, and you can ask all the questions you need on how to take advantage of the services they offer, which is to help you strategically take possession of yours in gold and silver, as well as some other assets as well in your possession, which is a great way of diversifying outside of the traditional legacy system that we're witnessing unfold right now. So if you go to rethink or colonialsmetalsgroup.com /RTD, you guys can see all the information you need here, resources wise, and also give them a call at 888-521-2448 today. Speak with an expert and find out if this program is something that is of value to you, and you'll be one step closer to protecting everything you work so hard for. And in these current days and times, that is very, very important. So check them out if you're interested. Okay, so I want to start off today. We can get into the metals activity. I got some stuff about that as well. There's been a little bit of a correction in silver in particular, strategically, intentionally, and I got some thoughts on that. But I want to start off today a little bit different, just because I'm assuming you guys have noticed as well the video surfacing on just younger generations that literally were told to do certain things based upon tradition. And I, even as a parent myself, I realized that over the last 20, 30 years, the world has changed, but yet the advice been given, especially from the older generations, has not really changed much. And so kids are literally doing exactly as they're told with something that no longer carries the same amount of value and weight. So they're in debt with student loans and all the other things that come with that. The idea of them wanting to obtain the American dream, and the American dream died, decades ago, technically speaking. But I came across an interesting video clip that I'm going to share in a moment that really highlights the despair amongst the younger generation. And the reason it caught my attention was because it's unfortunate to see so many of the younger generation literally, I guess, falling victim to or just being caught up in circumstances that were here well before they came about. And literally, as we're witnessing this monetary transition, they will not have the same opportunities that millennials and older have had to secure a little bit of something, to be able to say that they have a piece of the pie in this current world. And so it's just, one of the things that just touched me this morning as far as wanting to shine some light on it. And of course, the message, what I've considered monetary literacy, it definitely, if they were to heed this type of information, to realize the problem isn't any individual in particular, because the certain video I came across, it labeled the baby boomers as the issue. Let me actually grab that particular post here. It labels the baby boomers as the primary reason, and that's not necessarily true. It's the system in of itself that, the silent generation, the generation that's long gone, instilled or started in our country. And those are the ones that were the catalysts for the reason, or the reasons why the world is experiencing what it's experiencing right now. But let me just stop ranting and get to the nuts and bolts of what I'm getting into here. So on the screen here, it's a video clip that was shared by Darth Powell, and it was shared this past Sunday, and it has 22,000 views. And basically it's entitled "Boomers Stole the American Dream and sold younger Americans on a lie that is no longer true." And so here we have a young lady sitting in a car, and she's, I see a lot of comments here. People are, even Rick Rule chimed in on it, and a lot of, investment people that chimed in on it, with all with their different perspectives. And of course, those are the older generations that's, wanting to divert the blame from them. And of course, as I mentioned, it's not the boomers' fault. And I got a couple graphs I want to show with you as well, just to show you the common traits of this current issue that they're facing and the world's facing for the most part. But anyway, so I'll play this real quick, and then you guys can get a idea as to what her thoughts are and her experiences are, because she's one of countless millions that are experiencing the same type of pinch. But check this out real quick, and then we'll go from there.
Years for like a college degree, and now you have a job that you hate, and you still can't afford life, and you're still fucking miserable, and you can't pay any of your bills, and you can't live in the house that you imagine, and you just feel lied to, because you thought that if you just went to college and got a degree, you'd be able to afford a house and like things that make you happy, but yet you're still barely can afford groceries or clothes or literally anything that makes you happy at all, and you had to spend the whole entire weekend in your bed because you literally don't have any money to go do anything other, like if you buy food, you just can't have an entertainment budget. So I'm just wondering if anyone else is dealing with something like this, or if it's just me, because this shit ain't it.
That stuff isn't it. So literally everything she pinpointed out right there and there is like, she went to school, got a good job, and she can't afford a house. She doesn't have much of a disposable income after taking care of her living expenses, and she's feeling a pinch, and she can't enjoy life. And literally, she's like, this stuff is not it. Like something is clearly broken there. And little does she know, it's a system in of itself. When you have financial repression, which is the primary mechanism between the government and central banks, literally utilizing the currency as weapons against the people, and you compound that with inflation, aka taxation and everything else, it leaves very little room for this current generation to ever be able to experience any type of lifestyle that millennials and older have been able to experience. And that's just the way things have gone, and it will only get worse, unfortunately. And so I'm just curious, based upon what you guys heard with that video there. Of course, nothing shocking there, but what are your thoughts on that? Like, if you were to give advice to Zoomers rather at this current day and age, what type of information would you want to share with them that could hopefully, I guess, not necessarily get them on the right track, or set them on, or position them to be able to move forward in this generation? Because gold and silver is something that millennials and older have access to be able to preserve wealth that they've already produced. But if you have a young kid or a younger adult just getting started, they have nothing to use as a method to protect. They have nothing to protect because they haven't earned nothing yet. And so, of course, some people might say, Mike, they may, get some crypto, just buy some Bitcoin and sit on it. Okay, that might work until a certain point. But then again, it's no guarantees there. And of course, starting a business would be ideal. But then again, a lot of these kids here, they lack creativity because they are the generation that grew up with smartphones, meaning that they were not forced to use all of their mental faculties to really expand their imagination, i.e., being able to dream and things like that, which goes into creativity. So they're screwed on many fronts. But kind of said, but glad I don't have kids at 40. Boomers were shared and are now headed to slaughterhouse. Your turn, honey. Yeah. Okay. Need generational wealth going forward to pass. To pass it down. Pass down. If not, your future gen is done. So here's another thing with that. Passing down wealth from older generations could fall into the hands of an irresponsible generation, meaning that if Zoomer generation have never had to work to earn anything because they're just starting off for the most part, younger generation, early 20s, just fresh out of college, they don't appreciate the value of what might be passed down to them. Therefore, usually they got them quick hands where it's in one hand and out the other hand very quick. So baby boomers is passing down funds to millennials and generation. More than likely, the millennial generation won't have much really to pass down to the Zoomers on average. Not every case is different, but once again, those kids will not have the ability to really have much to work with. And so give me 1 second here. Gotta refresh the channel a little bit here. Anyway, so you get my drift here. So what am I getting at here? Generation Z, and it's no coincidence that their issues is a part of the current decimation and debasement and erosion and all those other words that I come up with about our national currency here in the U.S. and globally. And so I put together like a little visual aid. Let me grab it real quick here. So let me share some stuff with you. So just for Generation Z, because apart from this morning, I didn't know that they were considered the Zoomer generation. But just real quick here, it says Generation Z, also known as the Zoomers, referred to the demographic cohort succeeding millennials and preceding Generation Alpha. Here are some key characteristics of the generations. So literally, they were born 1990s and early 2010. And so there's a map. Let me see here. There's a visual aid that I wanted to share. Let me see if I can grab it. Give me 1 second here. Bear with me. Let me grab where'd it go? There we go. So here is a little visual aid that, where'd it go? Come on. Bear with me. All right, here's a visual aid here that I wanted to share, which highlights this generation here. And so here we have just a little map here of going way back to the silent generation, 28, baby boomers, 46, Generation X, millennials, 81, Zoomers, 97 through 2012. And then, of course, we got, Generation Alpha, which is, this current generation of, infants. So Zoomers in a generation. And so as I was looking at this, what came to mind for me was if I was to take this graph that was put together and turn it sideways and overlay it on top of the purchasing power of our currency, it just plays or shows to me, it demonstrates to me hand in hand the continual erosion of purchasing power over time, how it has made life uncomfortable and more costly for everybody. And the beneficiaries of this, the generation that had the most bang for their buck, happened to fall into the baby boomers, Generation X, and the silent generation. And so let me grab that visual aid here. So if I took this one and overlaid it over, let me grab that one. Give me a second here. And you can see what I'm referring to here. So here we have another little visual aid I created on the fly. And so I took that same visual aid, turned it sideways, and then overlaid it on top of the consumer purchasing power chart. And so if I zoom in here, if the purple is the Gen Z, which is around the 2000 year time frame, we see that at this current moment, during the time frame they were born, the lack of purchasing power for a single unit, aka a dollar, was well into the process of literally being worth less, to where this generation here hitting adulthood at the same time, especially post COVID-19 pandemic lockdown, where they created an extra $6 or so trillion that really caused inflation to become a problem. It really, really puts them in a very bad position, because this generation here will not be afforded the privilege to be able to work, to earn, to save, to even invest, to even begin thinking about retiring, just because the purchasing power of the currency makes that unlikely. Just because, as our young lady mentioned in that whole little rant there, she went to school, got a good grade, got a good job, can't afford this, can't afford that, has no money left over to save, even to enjoy her life. And so imagine like the other generations that comes after this. It's impossible. And so it just makes me realize that, for me being born in the yellow time frame here as a millennial, of course, we all got stories here where we can remember, how affordable things was compared to now. Where I remember I started driving, gas for the car was like 96 cents a gallon. Whereas now it's like $4, depending on where you live at. Like that's, you factor in all those costs. I can see how the Zoomer generation literally could be so unhappy with the circumstances that they were dealt. And of course, they want to blame it on, the boomers, as I mentioned. But then again, you go back out here in the time frame where we had the silent generation, the baby boomers, and Gen X. They were able to enjoy some purchasing power. So literally, so if you just use this visual aid here to go back to the 60s and 70s, having, say, 30 to 40 cents available out of your dollar, rather than today it being 2 cents of purchasing power out of a original dollar, was enough to where you can have a single income, 4, 5, 6 kids, one car, nice house, save for your retirement, but more likely you were promised a pension. And so economic woes that the Zoomers are experiencing, as well as everybody else, is all correlated and tied into the theft that central banking has imposed upon the world in every country. So this is just focusing on events happening here in the US. But then again, the currency correlates extremely well with the frustrations that the generations are experiencing. And so it's unfortunate that this little gold generation here, Generation Alpha, they're the ones that will literally have no chance of a future under this current model. Let me go back to my graph here. So you can see, where's it? Where'd it go? Bear with me here. Go back to my original graph here. So literally, the Generation Alpha, which are the current infants and babies now, they have no financial future utilizing a Federal Reserve note, aka dollar. This is a generation that will only know digital. They'll only know when they become adults or teenagers, perhaps. They'll be the ones that will embrace CBDCs. They'll be the one that will only know the tap and pay model. They'll be the ones that will succumb to the biometric currency linkage, where they use thumb or hand or palm or something like that for pain. And so this is just some things that caught my attention that is worth bringing to the forefront. And so I thought I had this visual aid up here, but I was referring to Generation Alpha here, the yellow generation that is currently the baby. So yeah, this is what's happening, man. This is just some things happening in reference to the baby boomer all the way down to the Zoomers and the desperation they're feeling. So thought I would just start off with that just because that video that I showed earlier really, really got me to thinking, man. Got me to think. Okay, so let's get into some other stories here, and then we'll keep it moving. Give me a second here. Let me get my stuff together. And speaking of which, not only are the Zoomers and not getting the most bang for their buck these days, but then again, they are also the most desperate and down and out generation, given the fact that everyone that graduated from college over indebted, not able to get any type of job that's resembling what they graduated with, they're just not wanting to work these days as well. And so here is an interesting article that came out from the Daily Mail. And it says here, number of working age male saying they don't want a job has soared by 600,000 since COVID to 3.1 million. And so this is out of the UK, survey done out of the UK. But imagine having an increase of individuals that say they don't want to work. At the same time, they don't have any income, no resources, no capital, no savings, yet they don't want to work. And so doesn't surprise me one bit. But then again, like the numbers don't lie. Concerns about Britain's inactivity crisis, that's what they call it, were underlined today with the figures showing spike in the number of men who do not want a job. Stark's details in the latest official statistics reveal that 3.165 million males aged between 16 and 64 indicated that they are out of the working force. And so small percentage of that are retired, but that is up from 2.5 million before the pandemic kicked off at the start of 2020. And it says COVID appears to have accelerated a long-term trend, as 3 decades ago that the equivalent figure for men was just under 1.8. So here you have the visual aid that shows that. But going back to, was that 84, 94, all the way today, the continual uptick of individuals that say that they don't want a job. Rising men say that they don't want jobs. And for women, say that they don't want jobs. The primary reason is they wanted to be, home caregiver, home, take kids, and just work from home, or not work from home, but just be at home. So anyway, it's remained stable, but men not wanting to work. And so that leads me to wonder, like, okay, not only are Zoomers losing hope because they've done a lot of things that were promised that didn't work out, but then you have men that don't want to work. And I'm like, okay, out of all the men that have jobs, not really, most of them don't enjoy their job. And most of them would not want to work if they didn't have to. And clearly that's the case. But I'm thinking, like, the concept of a job in and of itself can be discouraging because most people don't really want a job. Most people want purpose or meaning or something in relation to a calling, something that brings out their best, not just the selling of their time for income, which will obviously not do enough to keep a person afloat these days. And so this in and of itself is just another sign of desperation amongst a variety of age groups where people literally just giving up, saying to hell with it. Like, if the government's offering welfare subsidies, that's better than getting a job somehow. But just, more signs of the time. So as the desperation sets in amongst college graduates, as well as those who have no formal education, it's going to lead to a very unhappy and very problematic part of society. And then you factor in millions of immigrants that come here expecting promises that were granted to them by our government. It's going to be a hell of a clash at some point in the future. So, but anyway, this is enough on the whole job and stuff like that. So I just thought I would bring that out just because that was something that caught my attention today. Okay, let's get into another little subject here. So this plays into more of what I'm talking about. As a result of the lack of our purchasing power from our currency, desperation sets in. More people will go without than they'll have. The younger generation won't have a chance to start a future. At the same time, AI and everything else is going to replace, disrupt, and disturb a lot of things. And so here, this article says, we'll need universal basic income, says the AI godfather. And so this is out of the UK once again, but this same type of subject matter applies to everyone because we're all in the same boat in a sense. Computer scientist regarded as the godfather of artificial intelligence says the government will have to establish a universal basic income to deal with the impact of AI on inequality. And so professor such and such basically just out here promoting universal basic income, which of course will be a part of the government solution at some point because, it's kind of baked into the cake. But just, those three stories I led with. The young lady crying about having done the right thing, not having enough funds, people not wanting to work because they're feeling hopeless for the most part. And then you have the AI disruption that will lead to inequality like never seen before. And so universal basic income will ultimately be thrown out there. So this is what's happening on Main Street. And this is just the beginning phases of it. Anyway, keep it moving. More stories. And then you have governments. Here's an article that says soaring debt and deficits causing worry about threats to the economy and the markets. It says the federal IOU is now 34.5 trillion, or about 11 trillion higher than where it was in March 2020. Chatter has spilled into the government and finance heavyweights and has one prominent Wall Street firm wondering if costs associated with the debt pose a risk to the stock market rally. It says the CBO estimates that the debt held by the public compared to GDP will rise to an amount greater than any point in our nation's history, which it already is right now. Our debt is already, relatively speaking, at the highest point in our history, and the amount of currency units in circulation. And if you look at this chart here, total U.S. debt held by the public as percentage of GDP. And so as of right now, they're saying 99%. And the CBO projects that it'll be 116% by 116. That's barring any recessions, events, or anything to catch them off guard. And so literally being in uncharted territory for debt and deficits. U.S. total deficit as a percent of GDP, we're already living off a borrowed credit card, and the clock is ticking to there will be a default of some kind. But the default has happened gradually in the erosion of our currency. So these events here just compound on the issues that the average person feels, whether it be young or old, because the currency is the problem. It's the weapon of choice to fund debt and deficits caused by our government. So yeah, everything is connected, man. There's no accidents whatsoever in this monetary restructuring taking place. And then we have this. Biden long avoided touting stock market gains. Now he can't resist. So I mentioned how every president loves to speak on the effects that they've had when stocks are at all-time highs by basically making those illusionary metrics of wealth look promising and exciting when people look at the screen and it's going upward, but they never want to own it when it goes downward. It's always somebody else to blame. And so this comes from a recent tweet put out by current President Biden. Let me grab the tweet. And so this was as of last week. This is the current administration, just like the former administration, touting about how happy everybody should be that their portfolios are higher. So this is Biden. It says, this is great news for Americans' retirement accounts and another sign of confidence in America's economy. I'm building an economy from the middle out and the bottom up, and our investments are making a difference. This is him touting Dow Jones Industrial Average Stock Index hits 40,000 for the first time ever amid renewed hopes for the U.S. economy. And so this was as of the end of last week. But yeah, the debt and deficits at an all-time high, fueled by monetary expansion of currency that has caused everything to appear to go up in value when actually it's just losing purchasing power for the average holder. Yeah, but our president's out here talking about everybody's feeling richer. Okay, keep it moving. What else we got? A couple of subjects here. These are some things that caught my attention this early morning. Let me see. What other tabs I had here. Okay, so let's get into the little price action of the metals, man. So I posted it last night. Futures were predicting that silver sold off, and of course it did. Let me see. As of right now, I believe silver is back to where it should be. Let me see. Fresh the page here. Silver, yep, back at $32. No coincidence there, but late early this morning it was $31.97. It was a complete slam down. And so as of right now, 2,427 for gold. So literally, we're headed back up, people. And why is this? Let me get rid of some screens. Let me delete some screens here. Oops, wrong one. Let me go back here. Let me go back here. That was the one I did not want to delete. This is, let me grab this one here. And this shows a major reason why it is what it is. So let me bring this on the screen here. Let me make sure it's the right one. Yeah, okay. So real quick here. This is just highlighting more of the what is it we call it? This is we call the kryptonite to the monetary system. And it has to do, of course, with silver. Gold, of course, is all-time highs, whatever, but silver is the last of its kind that will really break the banker's back, if say it that way. But this is from Jamie Carrasco, as I mentioned, good person to follow on the internet. But it says the bid for physical silver is above $36 at the Shanghai X, and below 32 at the futures-based COMEX. So literally, this is as of 5 hours ago. Look at the big difference. Over the last 2 or 3 days or longer, it's been about $2 or $3 from the physical led by Shanghai and the paper over here in the Western Hemisphere. But for it to be $4 at this point when he was talking, lets me know that arbitrage opportunity is expanding to where the physical delivery of metals in the East is driving up the actual price of the metal in USD terms, to where at some point here in the West, there will be as a person said in the chat here, a force majeure timetable punctually for Tuesday, referring to today, because the arbitrage opportunity will literally drain the vaults that much faster in the West, forcing the LBMA and the COMEX to literally have to cease all contractual obligations. And that right there would literally send a shockwave through the silver markets, and the price would shoot up to astronomical prices, because people who have their contracts closed because of the price difference from the East to the West would literally probably sell all of their futures and settle for cash, and literally take that cash and go to the Eastern Hemisphere to get physical. And that would break the banker's back, hands down. And so it says here, don't miss this importance of true price discovery is that the more the push the price down at the COMEX and LBA, the greater the arbitrage to ship physical East for a premium. Asian prices, thanks to Orino Go. So this is what he posted. This was 5 hours ago. As you saw a moment ago, it's $32. And then this is where last evening in Asia, where it closed at $36.71 an ounce. And so, as I mentioned yesterday, for those who tuned in, based upon the charts, every month silver is reaching recent all-time highs, to the point where come June we will be closer to $40 than we'll be 20, barring some type of event or something like that, because the pressure is on the COMEX and LBMA to really figure out how to disrupt or to either get on board with this new price discovery mechanism out East. So this is going to be more things to pay attention to, because physical silver price must go up based upon what's happening out East. And it doesn't stop there. Let me share more with you here. So here is some more thoughts from Jan over at, where's he from? Gainesville Coins, an analyst over there. And he came up with a hypothesis, or just a theory. And he said, I might have an explanation for this, for the below, from a source. And so I mentioned earlier, was it in March and April, we had 4 major bullion banks visiting the Shanghai Gold Exchange in 1 month, exactly when the price started to skyrocket, referring to gold. So this was, let me go back here. We had Standard Chartered visiting in April. We had JP Morgan visiting in March. We had HSBC visiting in March, and Deutsche visiting in March. So literally 1 week apiece. So 1 week, the second week, third week, the fourth week. 4 weeks in a row, the big bullion banks decided to take a visit to China and sit down with their Shanghai chairman to discuss something. And I remember talking about it back then. And so this is him sharing his 2 cents on it. He says the reason could be because Chinese bullion banks have changed the way they import gold. Previously, they would buy gold abroad with dollars from Western bullion banks, load it into the Shanghai Gold Exchange vault, sell for RMB, etc. He says now the Chinese banks demand that the Western bullion banks, i.e., JP Morgan and the like, ship metal to the Shanghai Gold Exchange vaults where it can be bought from them directly for the RMB. Maybe the change in the process needed to some face-to-face discussion. Maybe the change in the process needed for some face-to-face discussion. So what he's saying is literally the banks, big banks going over to China to work out some type of negotiations to where he's suspecting that the dollar, they're no longer focusing on pricing metals in the dollar. And for those 4 banks to do business out in the Asian markets, they're going to have to accept the fact that things will be priced in the renminbi. And so he's probably saying that between now and the time the Western Hemisphere markets break, the spot markets or the future markets, the banks, if they want to be in on this arbitrary opportunity, when they ship metals to the East, they're going to do it in RMB terms, not in dollar terms. So this, if true or not, could be another way of de-dollarizing and literally having the RMB step up to the plate as being a monetary instrument that the world would have to recognize, because eventually the banks will probably have to start quoting things in RMB or the yuan at some point in the future. So too early to tell, who knows? But then again, this is just some things out there floating around. So make of it what you may. And then here's another little article caught my attention. It says 10 reasons why gold is gleaming more than ever. Of course, this is written by a gold person, but nevertheless, very timely. So 10 reasons why gold is gleaming. The bedrock of stability, demand and desire, scarcity principle, autonomy and investment, liquidity at your fingertips. A lot of people forget that literally having physical metal is the equivalent of liquidity in the same format as if you had a bank account full of digits on a screen. Like, you can just swipe your card and have liquidity. With gold and silver, those are also forms of liquidity because they're easily interchangeable for fiat if you chose to. So having a large vault full of metals in a time of a crisis is insurance against the currency, A, and then B, if you needed to get back into the system using currencies, you can sell it and you'll always have a buyer instantaneously. And depending on availability of it, you'll have a guaranteed premium on top of that. So more than likely, it's shaping out that it's no reason why gold is coming back into the coffers of banks, because it's insurance against their own malfeasance and their currency manipulation, but also it's the best way to get liquid if you need to get back into the legacy system to do some activity. And then it says diversification, safeguard, inflation's antidote, tangibility factor, portability and privacy. Privacy was one of those things that most people are giving up on, and the open doors for all investors. So conclusion, a solid gold investment. So I thought that was interesting there. But anyway, what else we got here? A couple other articles. Fed's bar, inflation data disappointing. Tight policy needs more time. So literally, with inflation, the CPI figures continue to tip back up slowly but surely. The current rate hikes up to 5.25 Fed funds rate. It's not doing its job yet. So literally, either has to go higher, or they need to give it more time, which will ultimately create more pain in the system. So the fight for inflation continues on, even though they can do nothing about it. Then we have FDIC chairman will resign following a scathing investigation that detailed a toxic workplace. A lot of resignations as of late. But anyway, if FDIC chair getting out of Dodge, I'm assuming there's more to the story other than just a toxic workplace, but very timely. And then last here, all eyes are on the SEC as they're asking for amended 19B4 filings for the spot Ethereum ETFs. So there's another ETF on the horizon, and it's Ethereum. So yeah, more ways of siphoning currency out of the legacy system through the new system, and then giving it that little time gap there before they usher in the final system, which will be tokenization of all real world assets and the introduction of CBDCs, which will be the final booby trap set for the people. So yeah, these are some things happening, man. All things happening in real time, but a little bit of a different live stream today. But start off with talking about some Main Street issues, which of course will impact future generations as well as current generation, and then all the things in between. And of course, the centerpiece of all this is keeping gold and silver out of the hands of the people, because they don't want people to be insured against central bank tyranny. So yeah, that's what's happening. That is what's happening. Anyway, good people, hope you guys had a great day. Be blessed, be safe, enjoy the rest of your day. And yeah, stack, pray, enjoy, love, live, and laugh. Peace.